Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. This is a new presentation from www.central-mosque.com and the Humble Heart YouTube channel. The topic is, when will Ramadan 2022 begin around the world? This video here about CCD imaging, what is CCD images, how are they used for moon sighting, rightly or wrongly, is discussed, and this link will stay for the entire duration of this presentation. Please feel free to watch it after this presentation is done. Let's first talk about the basics. When it comes to Islam, then we're supposed to go and sight the moon on the 29th of each Islamic month at sunset. There can only be two scenarios. If the moon is sighted, the next month begins. If the moon is not sighted, then the next Islamic month begins the next day, 24 hours later. Very simple. There are 12 months in an Islamic calendar, and each of the 12 months follow the same method. When it comes to countries like Saudi Arabia and Turkey, this Islamic method, well established from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is not followed, i.e., the Islamic months, all 12 Islamic months, are not determined according to Sharia at all. So those who advocate following countries like that in the West, understand and realize that if you do so, you will not be following the Islamic sanctioned, approved, Sunnah based method for starting your Islamic months, therefore performing your acts of worship throughout the year. People are under this misunderstanding that it's only Ramadan or Eid or Dhul Hijjah where you do Islamic acts. No, all Islamic acts throughout the year depend upon the sighting on the moon. For example, you pay zakah every 12 Islamic months. So that could fall in any Islamic months, and that's determined according to moon sighting. If a woman is divorced from her husband or her husband passes away, she has to fulfill a time period which is called iddah in the Quran, where she cannot marry. That is also determined on Islamic dates, Islamic months, therefore moon sighting. There are recommended fasts, for example, the 13th, 14th, 15th. They're fasts of Muharram. All of those stuff depend upon the Islamic dates, which depend upon the moon sighting. So it isn't just about Ramadan and Eid and Dhul Hijjah. Is throughout the life of a Muslim, throughout the entire year, through various months. You need to be able to correctly determine the Islamic months in order to fulfill your religious duties. Also, if you're into cupping, etc., there are recommended days for. This has nothing to do with Islam. This is what's been determined by those people who are experts in these sorts of complementary medicine days, and they say do cupping or do certain acts on certain days of the moon. Then, in order for you to fully benefit from these therapies, you also need to follow a moon sighting system. So let me repeat again: Saudi Arabia and Turkey do not follow the recommended Islamic moon sighting system for all 12 months. Let me now talk about science. I've got this channel is filled with many videos you can watch, hours and hours long, that I've diligently put together, that tells you how the science of this thing works. Many people, they wake up a few days before Ramadan, a few days before Eid, and they try to poo-poo all over science, etc., and try to muddy the waters. Let me just put it to you dead simply. There are things which are certain, okay, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about hisab, the mathematic calculations of the sun and the moon being certain, okay, and the certainty are sunset, moonset, moon birth, angle, path, which means at any given time we know what the angle of the sun is. That's how you do your salah. So you look at your mosque's timetable, you know when Fajr is happening, Zohar is happening, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. Those are angles of the sun. Then we also know when the moon is moon rises, moon sets. That's also certain. When the new moon is going to be born, the conjunction, we also certain about that. At any given time, we know where the sun is in our sky. We know where the moon is in our sky. We know which path it's following. We know where the angle is. That all gets into certain. You cannot dispute that at all. Then there is data which is looked at analyzed and some predictions are made. So, for example, when the predictions are made that the sighting with naked eye is possible, there is a prediction. When it says the sighting by telescope or optical aid is possible, but not by naked eye, there is also a prediction by looking at the data. So, the more data points you collect, the stronger these gets. However, they are pretty good. Because their predictions are not certainty, there may be some differences, but there comes a point where you can clearly make a demarcation and you can say, look, this naked eye sighting was very close to improbable or impossible, etc. Or this sighting by telescope and optical eye was improbable or impossible based on that data. However, if someone sights the moon when the moon has set, or the moon is not even in the sky, then you can say that was impossible for sure, because that calculation is based on certainty. Please understand that. So the ulama who know this science, the scholars who know this science, who know how to do this, know how to differentiate between the two. So if it is based on the naked eye sighting or telescope optical aid sighting, then the ulama will say, well, there's some doubt whether the sighting is possible or it's highly improbable, etc. Versus if it's based on these kind of calculations, they will say impossible, cannot happen. So we need to understand how to use this science properly. Unfortunately, in the Middle East, uh, what some of these countries, for example, Saudi Arabia is doing, again, the link is right here about CCD, are using CCD images. CCD is not looking at the moon. CCD is looking at a picture of the moon being generated by a computer image. And according to scholars, it is not permitted to go by CCD to determine Islamic months. However, in Saudi Arabia, they either don't sight the moon or they use CCD images. The countries who claim to use science, for example, Turkey, this Ramadan, the first of Ramadan is going to begin on the 2nd of April in Turkey. This is a scientific impossibility because what Turkey is doing, they don't tell you that. Over the last 10 years, I've glanced through so many papers and stuff and asked people in Turkey, how do you know if this is based on science? Go ahead and tell me, how's that possible for this moon to be sighted for Ramadan to begin on the 2nd of April? What they're doing is they're basing their calculations on the presence of moon in places like Hawaii and stuff like that, because it is not possible to sight this moon at all anywhere for Ramadan to begin on the 2nd of April in Turkey. They don't tell you that clearly, but when you delve into this, when you do a deep dive, you it can be pretty accurately surmised that they're looking at Hawaii or some other place like that. Saudi Arabia, Al Qura calendar is also saying that the Ramadan will begin on Saturday, the 2nd of April. That is also an impossibility. So here, science, even if someone was following science and not citing, they will not be following the Sunnah, but their acts of worship, their start of Ramadan will be accurate. Here, the science is incorrectly followed in country like Saudi Arabia and Turkey. What is the impact of that? The impact of that is the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in authentic hadith very clearly stated. Ammar bin Yasir radiallahu anhu said, whoever fasts on day concerning which there is doubt has disobeyed Abul Qasim, meaning Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This day of doubt is the last day of Sha'ban. So Sha'ban can be 29 day, Sha'ban can be 30 day. The last day of it preceding immediately before Ramadan is considered the day of doubt, and we're not supposed to fast on that day. So when you inaccurately use science or inaccurately use CCD to determine Islamic months, then this is what happens. You go directly against the saying of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So once again, what is the sunnah? Go on the 29th, sight the moon wherever you happen to be. Use optical aid if you have to. But When it comes to this particular moon on the 1st of April in Ramadan 1443, there is no chance of this moon being sighted in Australasia, no chance of this moon being sighted in Asia, no chance of this moon being sighted in the Middle East, no chance of this moon being sighted anywhere in Europe, no chance of this moon being sighted anywhere in Africa, no chance of this moon being sighted anywhere in South America, no chance of this moon being sighted anywhere in Central America. And here, all of these, I'm talking about naked eye sighting or using the most powerful telescopes that you have. No chance. The only chance you got is in the west coast of United States. For example, in California or Oregon or Washington State, etc. There is a chance where this moon can be seen. So anyone in Australasia, Asia, Middle East, Europe, Africa says that this moon is sighted, this is very, very close to being impossible. Saudi Arabia, because they either don't sight the moon and simply come up with some kind of a conjecture to match the Al Qura calendar, or use CCD sighting, may probably start Ramadan on Saturday when it is an impossibility. Now, if Saudi Arabia don't announce the start of the moon, people will come back to this video saying, you know what, you were wrong. The only time that happens, looking at over the last 17 years of my research, is if the moon, if the weather is so bad that there's no chance of even CCD images, and that you can't fool people because the weather conditions are bad or something happens and so on and so forth, is the only way this situation in Saudi Arabia rectifies itself. Otherwise, their criteria in Saudi Arabia is very simple. They say if the moon sets even a few minutes after sunset, then if anyone comes and says the moon has been sighted, they accept the testimony. The science here is wrong. The science that they're using is wrong, and the results of that are catastrophic. Now, in Saudi Arabia's defense, what they say is, we have not asked Muslims in the West or anywhere else to follow Saudi moon sighting. So we say to the people, go sight your own moon. It's unfortunately our sincere brothers and sisters in the West who become advocates of Saudi moon sighting. Now, they know very well, they are scholars in UK and US. They know clearly, explicitly, very well that Saudi Arabia does not have a 12-monthly moon sighting system. They also know the errors of Al Qura calendar, etc. But what they say is, they say, listen, we see on TV that they're trying to sight the moon in Ramadan or Sha'ban or Dhul Hijjah. So they are sighting the moon in those particular months, and we're going to take the sighting. Privately, when you talk to them, and he said, listen, you know that the moon sighting is not happening throughout the year. We know that those claims are faulty. And by the way, there's 7 to 9 official moon sighting bodies in Saudi Arabia, and hardly any of them report moon sighting. They go out, and within minutes there's an announcement made in Haram, and these official moon sighting parties come back with negative results. Over the years, there have been many organizations, Islamic organizations, individuals who've contacted Saudi government, and they said, we want to embed our people with your teams who sight the moon, because we want to be able to see and verify what is going on. Not allowed officially. And those who are part of these, they cannot disclose what actually goes on. Some of the brothers who work in Saudi Arabia live in Saudi Arabia. I also worked and lived in Saudi Arabia. Because of many reasons, cannot disclose what actually happens. So this is highly problematic situation to try to follow Saudi Arabia for your acts of worship. Please follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Please follow the advice of even Saudi scholars, and follow your local moon sighting. Now, those who live in United States, particularly East Coast. So if you live in Florida, if you live, in the DC area or some other states, you're going to have a problem because the moon cannot be sighted, but it can be sighted on the West Coast. So it is likely that those who follow moon sighting will have to wait for the news from the West Coast to arrive, which will be a few hours late, and that's going to delay the news. When it comes to Caribbean, South America, Central America, etc., this moon cannot be sighted. The next day, 2nd of April, this moon can be easily sighted in most parts of the world. So again, if your 29th falls on the 1st of April, if you're going by moon sighting, then almost all over the world, there is no chance of this moon being sighted apart from the west coast of United States. The next day, if you're 29th, the next day, 2nd of April, then this moon can be easily sighted in most parts of the world. So by following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, by following moon sighting, whether you do naked eye or whether you use optical aid, telescope, etc. Ramadan in most parts of the world should begin on Sunday, the 3rd of April, apart from a chance in the west coast of America where this moon can be sighted. Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.